Well, good evening, imagination connoisseurs. Welcome to the Post-Geek Singularity community. And let me tell you, I'm frankly exhausted. I am completely wrecked. We've been in Vegas since Sunday night, and we've gone full on at Cinemacon, seeing everything. And it's been quite illuminating. I don't know if you watched John's stream earlier, but today we did I did 2 hour-and-a-half shows with him. I had to leave because I was going to do this show and I had to eat and that kind of thing. But it's been amazing. Today we saw both the Universal presentation here and the Disney presentation here at Cinemacon. It's been amazing. But first, before I get into it, of course, I have some viewer letters to read. And as many of you know, I have a new sponsor, Lucky Tiger Men's Grooming Products. Now, as many of you know, they've decided to sponsor me. I'm going to do some work for them on their own YouTube channel, or not YouTube channel, their own website. And the website that I'm doing work on is clubluckytiger.com, where I'm going to be doing videos and podcasts. It's going to be really great. But then they're also sponsoring the Burnettwork. And as many of you know, I am anxious, I hope, for the 100th live chat of Robservations to get their CEO, Mr. Alan Murphy, to come live on this chat and ask him, well, one, why he wanted to sponsor a ne'er-do-well like myself, but I think he likes my positive message. But two, what's really interesting about Lucky Tiger as a brand is it started almost 100 years ago in the Midwest. And it was started by a guy who was basically the Willy Wonka of barbers during the time that he lived. And he created these great men's grooming products that I have to tell you, I am not familiar with the entire line, but today I only have a few samples at home. There's a big box of all these products waiting for me. But today I tried their facial scrub. And let me tell you, it's my new favorite thing. It's got a little bit of little graininess to it that I love. And all of Lucky Tiger's products have a faint scent of citrus, not overpowering, really nice. But I really do love this facial scrub. It's really great. I mean, look, you have to look at my face so damn close right now because I'm on a laptop and I'm not at home. But let me tell you, Lucky Tiger, I really dig their products. I can't wait to go through I'm probably going to make videos of their products just for fun, because if they're going to sponsor me, we might as well have fun with it. But their facial scrub product, I give it my full endorsement. Go to the website, getluckytiger.com, and buy this stuff. It's really good. I hope they sent me a big container of it because I'd use it every day. I've used it twice today. I used it just before I came on this show. So I'm very happy that Lucky Tiger is sponsoring me. But I'd be even more happy if all of you went to the Lucky Tiger websites and you guys wrote Alan Murphy, their CEO, a letter and tell him that he should allow me to do an interview with him for the 100th live chat of Robservations. It's up to you. Don't let me down. Well, now to letters. As everyone knows, I am really, really, really enjoying all of the letters, and I've read some really heartfelt letters, and I've read some really moving letters, and I've gotten to know you better. And look, I think the Post-Geek Singularity community, it's the best community on the web. Now, there are 2 Star Trek letters I have that I had to read. One is from Terry Flynn, who cracks me up. I really enjoy Terry's commentary here in the live streams, but he sends letters. So I have 2 letters about CBS and Star Trek tonight. So here we go. Terry Flynn says, "Dear Rob, me again. I hesitate to bring up the issue of CBS's new Star Trek shows, but given speculation over the Picard show, it got me thinking. The bromance between Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen is well known. I get the feeling they espouse each other's social causes a lot. Stewart has a personal history regarding domestic abuse, whilst McKellen has, of course, always been a major anti-homophobia figure. Memorably, he recalled meeting with the UK Environment Secretary Michael Howard to lobby against Section 28. a nasty right-wing homophobic 1980s policy. Howard declined, but asked the actor to sign an autograph for his children. McKellen obliged and wrote, "Fuck off, I'm gay," instead. Okay, that's just a funny anecdote McKellen told on the BBC. But why do I think this friendship and espousal of each other's issues might have relevance to a new Picard show? Well, I fear Patrick Stewart might, in an understandable desire to further the rights of minorities, be in danger of damaging the Next Generation brand by buying into a show that has noble aims, but which, if like Discovery, just isn't written well. My fear is that Stewart likes the pitch of the show for being edgy and artistically taking him in a new direction, but maybe he is in danger of getting caught up in a show that ends up being written by committee and a real mess, like Discovery. Would I like to see Jean-Luc Picard espouse minority rights? Sure. But if it's done in a ham-fisted way like Discovery, I think that would actually be unhelpful. I'd rather Sir Patrick just gracefully decline the role instead. Tell this story well or don't tell it at all, but gay or other minority issues aside and thinking generally, I think that just what Patrick Stewart might see in a new Star Trek show is worthy of discussion and speculation. Well, best regards, Terry. Well, Terry, a thoughtful letter to be sure. Here's the thing. When working in television or film, getting a job is so hard. And if you watch my documentaries on the Next Generation that are on the Blu-ray set, at the end, the climax of the 7 seasons, Patrick Stewart says, yeah, we could do a new Star Trek, but should we do a new Star Trek? He went all Dr. Ian Malcolm for a minute there. And maybe, look, maybe he saw something. He's getting up in years. You know, he's approaching 80 if he's not there already. I'm not sure. But, you know, when you're that age, the fact that you want to stay vibrant and work, Shatner, who turned 88 just a few days ago, I mean, the man keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. You want to work. You want to be engaged. And I think one of the great changes in our society is that you don't have to retire at 65. You know, you keep working. We've got Clint Eastwood pushing 90. Not only is he directing, he's still starring in movies. Shatner still out there every week doing something. And I think Patrick Stewart feels the same way. I don't know. But look, I cross my fingers and I always hope what we're getting is great. Why wouldn't you want something to be great? I am not a hater until such time as something lets me down. Star Trek is basically my religion, as anyone knows me would tell you. It kills me that I don't love Discovery. It kills me that I actively hate Discovery because I think it's actually detrimental not only to Star Trek as a whole, but to the fabric of storytelling in general. I know that seems a little drastic, but it's true. That brings me to my next letter that I must say, this was sent into my website, the Burnettwork, and Mike Bodden, who helps me administer that website, actually does all the work, he sends along the letters that he thinks are the most pertinent and the ones that are the best. I see them all, but there are some that we can't pass up. And this letter is pretty fantastic, I have to say. And this one is from Logan George, and it also is about Star Trek. And I have to say, Logan, you're a gentle being after my own heart. Here's what Logan says. By the way, he didn't say Dear Rob. He just starts. I kind of like that, actually. It's largely pointless to keep talking about Star Trek Discovery's perpetual infinity, but one plot point keeps circulating around my head like a Denevian neural parasite. Burnham's mom says, I moved the sphere into Discovery's path so they can protect the data. What? Wait a second. Control, the conscious AI that wants the sphere's data so it can become a conscious AI, as Nerdrotic terms it, didn't even know about the frickin' spear until the data was on Discovery. If Mama Red Angel wanted to keep control from getting the info, all she had to do was let the sphere die alone. Or since she has the magical powers to move it, why not toss the sphere into a black hole? Along with her other magic suit powers, raising the dead, time travel, unlimited teleportation, spying cloaked on her daughter, ability to pick up a church full of people from the mid-21st century and move them 50,000 light years for some reason, and an EMP weapon that saves the Kelpians from the Baul. What a suit. It has to be from the far future. Oh, but then we find out Section 31 knew about it the whole time, and it's 20-year-old tech that has unlimited storage. They think their audiences are all idiots, and they might be right. Imagine the Sphere story as a standalone story, which it probably began as. Set the story on the Kirk-Spock Enterprise, and how would it play out? First, they think it's an attack, so Kirk plans to shoot it. But then Spock says, no, it's trying to communicate. McCoy makes some quip about a sphere tantrum. Spock reveals it wants to give them its knowledge before it dies. Scotty says, we don't have enough storage capacity on the ship for all that data. Spock says, we can relay the info through Epsilon 9. Nice Star Trek the Motion Picture reference. And send it all to Memory Alpha for archiving and study. Kirk says, great idea. Enhance the drama while doing the transfer. Klingons and Tholians and others show up because they want the knowledge for themselves. Kirk shoots things, but gets them all to chill out by allowing them all access to Memory Alpha. He gives them library cards. The end. That's a standard Star Trek story. But I guess it's not woke enough, though. Speaking of which, I've felt embarrassed for Star Trek Discovery twice now. The kind of embarrassment I felt when I was in the theater and saw Leia freeze over and then open her eyes and Mary Poppins back into her ship. On Discovery, the first embarrassing thing was with Mirror Emperor, with Stamets and Culber going on and on about who's gay, non-binary, and pansexual pappy. Good Lord. It's about time Star Trek had gay characters, but in the 23rd century, there are no labels. The idea that in 300 years, people will use those terms would be about as absurd as those terms being used 300 years ago. That's very astute, by the way. The next embarrassment was, I like science. No. Spock doesn't say stupid things. And the Spock I knew didn't have a foster sister or half-brother or learning disability. He was bullied by Vulcans, and he had a strange childhood incident preparing for his Kazwan when he got saved by his cousin Selleck. That's about it. And the new Twilight Zone is a disaster. I'm ending my All Access after the disco finale, which will surely be a ludicrous Borg origin story. Or maybe Borg oranges, as POTUS might say. P.S. Last week, I suggested a Captain Pike show. I'd call it Star Trek Prime. Anson Mount makes a good Pike. Rebecca Romaine might be a good #1 if she ever gets more than a minute and a half of screen time. Peck might be a good Spock if he ever gets Spock-level writing. And watching a Conan O'Brien repeat the other day, I realized who'd be a great Dr. Philip Boyce. Jeff Goldblum. I bet he makes good martinis. And cameos by Commodore Robert April, Anthony Hopkins. Tig Notaro should also be on this headcanon show because her performance on Discovery is perfect. She has no idea what she's saying when she reads her lines, and she comes across as not caring, so it becomes quite deadpan funny. All the actors should take cues from her and play everything with her tone of, you guys do realize this is all BS, right? Well, let me tell you, that letter pretty much sums up, once again, my feelings for Star Trek Discovery. Both of these letters I really appreciate. Again, for all of you people that want to send these letters in, send them to the Burnettwork.net website. Be sure and tell me if I can read them. Tell me whatever you want. I love hearing these letters, and I'm going to keep reading them because I think they're great. And there's more to come. There's more letters that come in. I get letters every day now, and one is almost better than the next. So thank you for sending those in. I very much appreciate it. Sorry, my voice is a little shot right now. And I'm drinking tea with sugar, which I really dislike. I didn't realize it had sugar when I bought it. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I thought those letters were great. Now, as anyone who might have watched the live show that John Campy and I have been doing, we did 2 today. We did 1 yesterday about Cinemacon. For those of you who don't know, Cinemacon, where I'm at right now, is put on by NATO, not the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but the National Association of Theater Owners. Now, basically what this does is it allows, like when I came here, I thought it was all going to be about chain theaters, whether it's Regal or whether it's AMC. But what I've found really interesting about Cinemacon is how many independent theater operators I've chatted with throughout the casino, mostly standing in line for things or on the trade show floor. And I've met a lot of really interesting. I met a guy who owns theaters in Alaska, in Juneau, which was really interesting. And hearing about their experiences and how they run things and how they all have to have relationships with the studios. You know, I was told by one of these independent theater owners who wanted to do a Toy Story marathon before Toy Story 4 opens. Disney's like, no way, because they hold all their movies close to the vest. I thought that was kind of sad. As now they're touting these, they're going to have a 21 or actually a 22 film marathon of all the MCU movies that take 50 some odd hours. I mean, God, I can't even imagine something more horrifying than that. I mean, the fighting to stay awake as somebody who's pulled all-nighters editing, there's nothing worse than going into a day 2 of staying up. It's so horrifically awful. So I can't imagine trying to stay up for 56 hours while you watch all of the MCU movies to get to Endgame. I was saying on the John Campy show today that I don't even want to. I've watched Infinity War a lot, but I don't even want to go to a fan showing of Infinity War and then Endgame, because I want Endgame to be. I am one of those people that believed Endgame. Well, Infinity War is not to me a cliffhanger. It ended. Thanos stated his plan. He went out. He executed his plan and executed half the universe. He won. At the end of the day, he's sitting on the Garden Planet, which we heard today in the Disney presentation, and he was satisfied. He thought he'd done his job. Everything was good, and it was over. Now, we know that we have characters coming back, but as far as Thanos is concerned, he doesn't know. He figured, all right, he did what he needed to do. He balanced the universe, and now he's going to just retire in his vegetable garden, I guess. So to me, Endgame is the beginning of a new story, a beginning of something else. I don't want to watch it back to back with Infinity War. I will at some point in the future when I own it. But yeah, I want my Endgame experience to be singular. That's what I want. Kind of like you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. I don't want to, I just want to watch Endgame and that's it. And I want to contemplate it. Well, today at the Disney presentation, they showed a full Endgame scene, and it was very interesting. If you didn't see the earlier stream I did with John Campia, in this scene, we're in Avengers headquarters, and in the scene we saw Banner, Rhodey, Black Widow, Rocket Raccoon, Nebula, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Thor, Captain Marvel. They're all there. Who wasn't there? Did I say Nebula? Nebula was there too. No Tony Stark. Tony Stark was not in this scene. And we all just assumed that Nebula and Tony Stark are on the Benatar coming back from Titan. I thought Tony's, now a lot of people said perhaps he was recovering from his injuries, perhaps he was with Pepper, or maybe he's dead. Maybe he didn't survive. I mean, Nebula, I would assume, can survive without air, without oxygen, because she's half cyborg. Tony Stark is a human being. So what if Tony died? But anyway, so in this scene, we've seen clips of it. It's the scene where Thor summons Stormbreaker, and it was full of really interesting canonical information that I was surprised by in the movie. And one of the things I was surprised by was the fact that Tony wasn't there. But what was really interesting was the fact that Rhodey says to Captain Marvel, like, hey, new girl, where the hell have you been? And she's like, look, I'm paraphrasing. She's like, look, there's a lot of other planets that need more help than Earth does, and they don't even have the Avengers. And it was great because she was going to leave, and they're asking her, well, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going to go kill Thanos. And of course, they're like, you can't just do that. I mean, we're all part of this. We're not just going to let you run off and kill him. And then it was a really interesting scene with all that great Avengers interplay. Thor is sitting there brooding in the corner half the time. Then he gets up to talk and chat. By the way, the guy you see in the reflection, that's Mike Bodden. Just so you know, he's not some strange visage that's being reflected. We're doing some work here. And it was really interesting. It was a great scene. And then, of course, Rocket shows this hologram, and they show how this energy burst came from Earth during the snap that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. And they catch a glimpse of it on another planet. And Nebula says that her father, that Thanos always said if he was ever able to achieve the snap, he would retire to the garden. That's what Nebula calls it, the garden. And they all get in the, I guess it's the Benatar, but Rocket's clearly the captain, and they all take off. And it ended there. It was a great scene. I really loved it. It made me more excited for Endgame than ever. You guys are going to love it, and I love the interplay. I just love these characters. It once again speaks to the fact that the scene they decided to show us was a scene where people are talking in a room. Now, I've always espoused my delight at the scene in Age of Ultron where they're sitting around the table having a conversation about Thor's hammer. And I've always maintained that I would watch a 2-hour My Dinner with the Avengers movie, which is kind of like My Dinner with Andre. It's just with all the Avengers where they just chat. They don't even have to be in costume. I would love to see that. It was great, and I really enjoyed it. We also saw 17 minutes of Toy Story 4, which was absolutely delightful. It's so good. You guys are going to like it. I didn't know where they were going to go because I felt that Toy Story was finished after Toy Story 3. But as John and I talked about earlier on his show, it was Andrew Stanton. We were told the story of how Andrew Stanton came in and said, you know, Toy Story 3 was the end of Andy's story, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was the end of Woody's story. And I thought that was really interesting. So that's how that was their kernel of an idea to do Toy Story 4. And from the first 17 minutes, they knocked it out of the park. So I can't wait to see that. Cinemacon's been a lot of fun. We've seen a lot of great stuff, and I can't wait. I mean, and also other things that we learned from the Disney. They talked a lot about Fox. Fox is going to they're going to keep it as a vital entity. They talked about continuing to do Deadpool movies. They brought up the Alien franchise is going to continue on at Fox, I would assume, as an R-rated film. And they definitively said, Emma Watts, who's one of the heads of their production, said that Dark Phoenix is absolutely the last. It closes the door, the 19-year door on the Fox custodianship of the X-Men franchise. So she didn't say where it was going to go, and they still had the New Mutants listed on their release schedule in 2019. No details were given. They didn't mention it, but it was on a graphic they projected inside the Coliseum Theater, which is also Celine Dion's theater. So there was that. Interesting stuff. It was a great presentation. It was quick. It was down to business. It was very, very exciting. I'm very Stuber is another movie that I really want to see. But now I'll get back to your questions because I'm very tired, actually. And I can't believe I'm still awake, to be honest. I'm actually hungry again. I was eating some beef jerky. Ryan is here. Ryan says, get Iron Man hot toy from Endgame. Could be the last one. I'll tell you, I'm not going to get the Iron Man hot toy from Endgame. I know all of you are going, what? Here's the thing. If you were somebody, I am not an Iron Man hot toy armor completist. That's thousands of dollars, and it's just I like Iron Man. Oh, here let me tell you. Here's my philosophy when it comes to action figure collecting. I don't need to own every iteration of a character. I only want to own my favorite iteration of a character, because Hot Toys, they've even done like 6 different Black Widows. Now, the Black Widow I'm currently rocking in my display case is the Winter Soldier Black Widow. Now, I have wanted to get, I think my favorite Black Widow might be their Age of Ultron figure, but I like the Civil War figure, I mean the Winter Soldier figure, because she has long hair. Really enjoyed that. Now, would I buy the Infinity War Black Widow? Probably not, because, you know, she's been on the run and she's kind of battered. She looks good. It's a good-looking figure, great likeness of Scarlett Johansson, but I really only need one Black Widow figure, and I want the one I think is coolest, because when I line up all the Avengers, you know, I don't need a bunch of different figures. However, and I don't need all the Iron Man armor, but I have a Tony Stark in civilian garb. I also have a Steve Rogers in civilian garb, which I like. So I don't think the Infinity War Iron Man has not come out yet. The Mark 50 armor. And that famously is a die-cast figure that has a $250 accessory pack that you also have to buy, which, by the way, I did not pre-order. But I think that's all I need. I think that's, and if that's the last Iron Man figure I buy, although I have to say those quarter-scale Iron Man figures are dope, and I'd like to own one. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you're a Hot Toys collector. Doshi is here. Hello, Doshi. How are you? I just saw Us. Amazing movie. I like it more than Get Out. Also, John is the champ, going on for 5.5 hours yesterday. Rob, you're awesome too. For those of you who don't know, John Campia did a 5.5 hour live stream yesterday. That is epic. I don't even know if I could do that. I'm an old man. I don't even know if I have. Well, I probably could talk for that long if I wanted to, but I don't know if I could. So John is a champ for doing that. For all I know, is probably still going on from the chat that we started, our second chat of the day. So I don't really know if he did or not, but it was amazing. Willow Yang. Hello, Willow. How are you, Willow? You know, one day you and I are going to have like, we'll get really drunk together because I want to hear your stories. Willow Yang says, is there a more humiliating and painful way of getting defeated than having your rectum exploded? Come on, Ant-Man, take 115. Okay. For those of you who are not following Analgate, or whatever you want to call it, I don't know, a biologist wrote an article that I actually tweeted out and put on my YouTube page or on my Facebook page about the way to defeat Thanos would be that Ant-Man would crawl up his rectum and then grow up to, you know, human size or gigantic man size and blow Thanos out from the inside. And even this biologist wrote an article about whether or not this would be possible. He said it would be. Here's the thing. I don't think we know how strong the rectum of a Mad Titan is. We don't even know if he has a rectum. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever done a detailed biological, you know, study of the Titan Thanos, but perhaps his biology isn't the same as ours. So all this speculation could be moot. I don't know. No idea. But, you know, I'd like to believe that Thanos's his rectum could take just about anything you could give him. And I think that Ant-Man wouldn't be allowed to expand that much. I think Titan's rectums would be stronger than that. So one never knows. But I just think it's funny that that's what we're reduced to now. But you never know. It could happen. I like all the speculation online. I've loved all the memes and especially some of the beautiful pictures that people have been making about this very subject. Incredible. Truly incredible. But I don't want that to happen. Now, of course, there is a story, and I forget. I think it wasn't the Tower of Babel. It was in Justice League, where the Atom goes into Darkseid's brain through his ear. So it was a JLA story. I don't remember which one. Someone's going to have to tell me whether I'm right or not. I'm not sure. Magic K is here. Thank you for the support, sir. Neil Adams opened his comic shop in Burbank, Los Angeles. Is that the artist Neil Adams? Did he open? I don't know. Helsing 7747 says, this weekend I will watch Shazam, Us, and Pet Sematary. Will you buy the Injustice Gods Among Us Omnibus 1 in October? By the way, I'm a big fan of yours. Well, Helsing 7747, thank you. Yeah, I probably will. As many of you know, I don't buy individual comics anymore. I just buy omnibuses and hardcover ones at that. I like my hardcover omnibuses, but I like that story. I thought it was good. David Cabrera asks, RMB, which presentation have you enjoyed the most? Well, I thought the Disney one was the most efficient, but I think overall, Disney has less movies coming out, but they're more, they're tentpole properties. And wait till you guys see more of Lion King. It's amazing. But I think that probably Warner Brothers, just because it was so diverse and the presentation was a lot of fun. It was sort of loose, but it was good. I mean, they've all been great. Ultimately, what all of these presentations said to me was that studio filmmaking is alive and well. The idea that they're just concentrating on tentpole properties and superhero movies is not true. We're getting a lot of diversity in terms of story, in terms of representation. They're doing a lot of things. And in a way, it was really uplifting. It was great to see the studios are giving us some great movies to be excited about, all different kinds of movies. I thought that was pretty cool. Topher Rock says, loving the coverage. Will 2020 seem like a letdown for film after all the amazing stuff in media we're getting in 2019? It's going to be hard to top. Well, I agree, but I think we're just going to be getting different stuff. I'd like to believe that every year there's something new to love. And, hey, maybe the Picard series will blow us away and be all good. And I'll be looking forward to it as much as I looked forward to Game of Thrones. Hope springs eternal. You never know. Magic K says, yes, the Neil Adams opened his comic book shop in L.A. Well, that's astonishing. Neil Adams is amazing. One of my favorite comic book artists. You know who would have loved that is John Schnepp. If he would have been here, he certainly would have loved that. It would have been great. But unfortunately, he's not. And I miss him every day. But man, a Neil Adams comic shop. That's so cool. The Dance Party says, Rob, glad you had a great time. You know what? To be honest, you know how Bruce Banner says that his secret in Avengers is that he's always angry? Well, my secret is I'm always having a good time. I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if it's so funny, but I will give you my main philosophy of life. And I learned this. Actually, I didn't learn it. I already had it. But it was detailed so beautifully in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Amy Heckerling's 1982 film, an adaptation of Cameron Crowe. Yes, that Cameron Crowe's novel. Actually, not novel, his nonfiction account of the year he spent undercover at high school, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. There's a scene in it where there's two characters. There's Mike Damone, who's the rocker who scalps tickets, who thinks he's cooler than he really is, and his good friend Mark Ratner, who's like the geek. They're all hanging out at the mall. Mark Ratner's in love with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Mike Damone is giving Mark Ratner, his friend, some advice on how to basically live his life. And he's standing in the record store, and there's a life-size cardboard cutout standee of Debbie Harry from Blondie. And Mike Damone is trying to tell his friend Mark Ratner how to be. And Mike Damone says, look, when you're with a girl, you have to act like, and I'm paraphrasing, you have to act like wherever you are, that's the place to be. And let's take that even further. I would say it's not just if you're with a girl. I would say it's whether you're anywhere, like wherever you are in the world, you have to act like that's the place to be. You don't want to be like Luke Skywalker, never his mind on where he was, what he was doing. You don't want to be that guy. So, or girl. So in the movie, Mike Damone is trying to tell Mark Ratner this, and he puts his hand around the cardboard cutout of Debbie Harry, and he gestures out into the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which is, back in the 80s, malls were a big thing. And he gestures out, and he looks into Debbie's eyes, and he says, Debbie, isn't this great? He's trying to explain to Mark Ratner that you just got to make it seem that way, because that's why girls would like you, because you're always positive and you're always, and I believe that. I think Mike Damone was correct. I'm always thinking, Debbie, hi, isn't this great? But let's face it, if you were anywhere with Debbie Harry, even now, she's like 70, it would still be great to be hanging out with her, even if you were hanging out with her in a mall, at a record store, standing next to her own cardboard cutout. Matt Fitzpatrick says, say, Rob, is that an official Lucky Tiger brand Lucky Tiger mug you have there? Why, yes, Matt, it is. As a matter of fact, it's almost empty of tea. And you know what's great about Lucky Tiger mugs? They're just like any other mug, except they have the Lucky Tiger logo on them, which makes them that much better. And they sent it to me. I might even think that drinking out of a Lucky Tiger mug makes your drink taste better. I think that's possibly true. But you know what? You guys will have to go to their website, go to getluckytiger.com. I don't even know if you can buy a Lucky Tiger mug there, but if you can, you should. But remember, write Alan Murphy, the CEO of Lucky Tiger. Do it. You got to go to their website, just write in and tell them that you want him, Mr. Alan Murphy, the CEO of Lucky Tiger, to be on the 100th episode of Robservations, which is going to come before Endgame. That's my goal. But you got to pester him. It's an action item as far as he's concerned. So just keep the pressure on, because, we as Inglorious Trexperts, we pressured Rafe Needleman. Rafe Needleman, who wrote the Star Trek trivia book when he was 13 years old, although we didn't know that. We just kept talking about him and talking about him and talking about him on the Inglorious Trexperts podcast. And if you listen to the new podcast, which drops this Saturday, we made Rafe Needleman call us and demand to come on and be on our podcast. And lo and behold, he is. So Mr. Alan Murphy, the CEO of Lucky Tiger, we can get him here. We're going to talk about his great product. And you know what? I'm going to make him send every one of you a Lucky Tiger mug. No, I probably can't do that. That's probably overstepping. I don't even know if they have enough Lucky Tiger mugs. I can't say that. But it'd be pretty cool. And you know what you guys should do is when he comes on, and we're going to make him come on, all of you should ask him how you can get a Lucky Tiger mug, because it makes your drinks taste better. Truly does. Mugen008 says, R&B, congrats on your sponsorship. Will email the CEO. Just ordered Space Battleship Yamato. Hyped. Any idea how the last 2/3 of Endgame will go? You know what? I have no idea, to be honest. I really don't. I have no idea. I just think we don't know. I think there's a lot about this movie that we don't know, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I for one, can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait at all. So David Cabrera is here. He says, do you guys have bull moose stores near you? I've never heard of a bull moose store. Perhaps we do. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Real Girl 26 says, David Cabrera, I was 5 years old when Star Wars was in theaters, but I fell in love with it when I was, but I like that you wrote, but I fell in love with it when I was 6. You were younger than me. That's great. And it's a love that goes on. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, Lucky Tiger mug. And I can shamelessly plug it too, says R&B. Hey, man, if someone wants to sponsor me, I will shamelessly plug you guys, especially if I like your product. If Lucky Tiger sucked, I wouldn't accept their sponsorship. All you have to do is try their facial scrub. I mean, it's for dudes. Like, try it. Just try it. Come back to me. Go to getluckytiger.com. Just buy their facial scrub it's really good. And it makes you look good too. I mean, I've been up for a long time, but it's really good stuff. If I didn't like it, and my girlfriend Elizabeth will tell you I'm totally metrosexual. You know, I like all kinds of potions and products and all that, but I don't seek them out. But Lucky Tiger was great, and I'm happy to have their sponsorship. And even cooler is at Club Lucky Tiger. We're going to be doing, I'm actually going to be creating content for them that I'm excited about doing, which is really cool. So it's not like they're just throwing a sponsorship my way and expect me to espouse the virtues of Lucky Tiger. No, I'm actually going to be creating original content for them that I like, documentary content, which is really cool. I mean, so it's not like they're like just giving me money or something. I'm actually going to be doing work. You can go to their website. We're going to be generating some really new and exciting content where we're going to be talking. I'm actually going to be talking to other bloggers that cover like men's issues, for instance, travel and clothing and grooming and all kinds of things. And it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about it. So I will shamelessly plug it, and you guys will listen to it. But hey, anyone that is going to support the Post-Geek Singularity community, that supports positivity, that supports what we're building here, you know what? I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, and I think it's great because it's just going to make me make this better and do cooler stuff. BBQ Nowak, is it no? Yeah. Says, Rob, can you talk about where you have eaten in Las Vegas? Have you gone to the Venetian yet, or is it just the restaurants at Caesars? I have to tell you, this is really a work trip, so we really haven't. The only place we went to was Chili's because John had a bunch of gift cards that we went and used, and that was very nice of him. There is so many good restaurants here. There's so much good food in Vegas. I mean, I could spend a year visiting restaurants. And you could go all over Las Vegas. Like I could go to a different restaurant every night. We walked for about a mile down the strip, and I would love to go to the Venetian. I'd love to go to Paris. I'd love to go to Aria. I'd love to go to Cosmopolitan. There are so many great restaurants in Las Vegas. The culinary delights to be had here. Now, Caesars is full of great restaurants. There's a Nobu here. Nobu is a sushi restaurant I particularly enjoy. There's a Nobu here, but I've been going to the Cafe Americana that's up front by the bell desk is pretty good. I like that, but you know, all of the restaurants here have to be good or they wouldn't survive. And there's Bobby Flay has a restaurant, and there's Hell's Kitchen right outside. Bobby Flay has a Tex-Mex restaurant that I want to go to. I mean, we don't even have time to sit down and have a decent meal because we're going places and I end up talking to people. So my culinary, the Barbecue Network, that's why you're asking me. You know what? I might be a little slow on the uptake. I'm a little slow. Barbecue Network. The restaurants in Las Vegas are far better than anything in Los Angeles. You know, you're right. I mean, this is a culinary delight here. And I couldn't even begin to talk about all these restaurants, and I would love to go to all of them, which I have not. So, yes. Greg Smith is here. It's the same. Greg Smith says, it's the same with me and Boba Fett. It's only Empire Strikes Back Fett for me. Other Fett figures aren't appealing. Well, it's interesting because, you know, the Boba Fett and Empire Strikes Back, doesn't he have that? Is the flamethrower or is that Jedi? I'm looking forward. Greg Smith and I are going to be in Wenatchee a week from Saturday, Wenatchee, Washington. We're going to be at WenCon, and I'll be there. It's a one-day convention. They're actually having events on Friday afternoon and evening where I will be at them, and then I will be at WenCon. And I'm hoping Greg is going to bring both his 1-to-1 scale land speeder and Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier, the Imperial probe droid he just built that debuted at the Emerald City Comic-Con. That would be amazing. I hope he does. I don't know if he will. But you never know. But if you guys can come to WenCon, if you're in Washington or Idaho, if you're close, come visit. Catholic Jack says, knowing you guys were in Vegas made me watch Casino last night, my favorite Scorsese film. I would only go to Vegas for the breakfast buffets. There's a lot of them, but I got to tell you, Catholic Jack. The food here is incredible. It really is incredible. It's not just the breakfast buffets. But Casino, by the way, the first hour of Casino is, I don't think it's just one of the best things Scorsese ever directed, but it's one of my favorite things in any movie. I mean, I love Casino. It's got Sharon Stone in it. What's not to love? But the explaining how Vegas works, that whole hour, tour de force. Tour de force. Doshi says, no more money in my account. Can't send any more super chats. Doshi, you don't have to feel obligated to send me super chats. I do appreciate the support you guys give me on the channel is amazing, and super chats are always welcome. But just because you can't send me super chats, don't feel you can't be a part of the Post-Geek Singularity community. Of course you can be here. You don't. Super chats are gravy, and I really appreciate the support for the channel. But please don't feel obligated or required to send me super chats when you watch these chats or participate in the live chat with other viewers. I mean, it's a community. We're supposed to build it. You have to be welcome here no matter what. At least I hope everybody feels that way. Henry K says, yeah, Thanos does take dumps. I don't know. Does he? Maybe. I mean, it's so funny that we've now, part of the cultural nerd zeitgeist is talking about Thanos's rectum. I love geeks. I love you all. Pre-live teaser says, was Stan Lee inspired by Howard Hughes or predicting Elon Musk when creating Tony Stark? Could very well have been. I mean, I don't know. That's actually a really good question. Henry K says Thanos just absorbs all of his foods. Okay, I'll tell you a funny thing about Star Trek. This is what I used to think when I was younger. This is my theory that I came up with. They always talk about how there's no bathrooms on the Enterprise. Like you never see anyone go to the toilet. Not exactly something that's part of good drama. So why would they bother? But if you think about the fact that all matter is recycled, what if they have sonic showers, as we saw in Star Trek: The Motion Picture? What if in the Enterprise they use transporter technology to actually beam all of waste material that's in your body, whether it's in your bladder or whether it's in your rectum or wherever? They just beam the liquid and solid waste out of your body, you know, twice a day or whatever you need. You go in, you hit the coordinates or whatever, you go into the bathroom and it just beams it all out so that solid matter can get recycled in the food recyclers. I know, don't sit there and go gross. It's not gross. They just take it apart, you know, atom by atom, and put it back together in a different form. I thought that was a cool way to deal with the fact that you never see toilets on the Enterprise. I could be wrong, but just something I used to think. Matthew Gaudette says, I almost feel bad for the director of Dark Phoenix. The film will be buried in favor of Disney's X-Men. Well, it's going to get a big release. And I have to tell you, today at the panel, they showed an extended Dark Phoenix trailer and clip, and it made it look pretty damn good. Like, I've really liked, other than X-Men 3 and Wolverine Origins, I've really enjoyed the Fox X-Men movies, despite what Comic Girl 19 says, who I like Comic Girl 19, but she does not like the Fox X-Men movies at all, and I do. So, you know, I kind of enjoy them, and I'm looking forward. Again, I've actually heard from people that it isn't good, but hope springs eternal. I hope it's good. I really want it to be good. Don't you want it to be good? Darth Suthius is here. Hey, Mr. B. Tony's suit in the trailer is Mark 85. His suit in Infinity War was Mark 50. My question is, what happened to Marks 51 through 84? I've heard of a theory of the movie being in a time loop. Thoughts? Very good observation. Why you know, the Hot Toys figure is the Mark 85 armor and Infinity War. But look, as we know from the House Party Protocol at the end of Iron Man 3, there's a ton of Iron Man armors we haven't seen. So I would assume that, well, you think about it, I mean, the Iron Man armor, if Mark 50, we don't necessarily know that they're consecutive either. The nanotech armor in Infinity War, the Mark 50, is hugely advanced. And the Hot Toys Mark 85 looks equally as advanced, but it kind of looks perhaps retro. Bill Hunt is here. Bill Hunt from thedigitalbits.com. If you guys don't know Bill Hunt, thedigitalbits.com, first of all, Bill Hunt has completed his first science fiction novel called Only Those Who Risk. It's set in the not too far future, but the future, and it's about the Space Guard, which is basically the Space Coast Guard. Phenomenal book. It really is. It's an interesting book that sticks the landing, and it sets up a universe that you're going to want to read a lot more of. Bill Hunt is here. Bill Hunt says, "Hey, dude, looks like you're having a blast. If you're driving home or have time, the M Resort Buffet is the best kept secret in Vegas. Amazing." I don't know where that is. I'm flying back though, and I will go find that. Unfortunately, this trip was a working trip, so it hasn't been such a great trip for partying or any of that. Dochi says, "Hey Rob, as a teen, I was picked on for loving comics, and now it's mainstream. You, sir, have experienced exactly what the post-geek singularity is. That's exactly what it is. We were once put upon geeks that were teased and bullied. Now we control the world, and everybody wants to know what we know. That's why we're the post-geek singularity." Christian Selesky says, "They are using time travel." Okay, that's what we're saying, the quantum realm and time travel, and I think that's probably true because Kevin Feige has always talked about how Endgame is inspired by the final episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, All Good Things, which took place in 3 different time periods, so I'm looking forward to it. We shall see. Captain Robert April's here. I haven't seen you in a while, Captain Robert April. I hope you're good. He says, in A Land of Troyes, it's pretty strongly inferred that after she bites Kirk's hand, she locks herself in the bathroom. That's true, but we never actually see that. Matt Limpicki says, "I love Iron Man 3. I love Iron Man 3 too. Richard Lee says, "I just watched your Captain Marvel review. That's why I'm late here." Oh, well, I hope you liked it. But welcome back, or welcome here for the first time. Thank you. Richard Lee says, "What if Black Widow is a Skrull, which would explain her hair change?" I don't think so. I think we're going to see a time jump in the movie. I think the movie's going to cover a number of years, which makes it more interesting, especially if time travel is involved. David Cabrera says, "Holy shit, it's 1 a.m. in Boston. I got to go to bed." Laugh out loud. Richard Lee says, "Nice hotel. What's your favorite hotel that you've stayed at?" Like in my life, my favorite hotel? God, my favorite hotel I think I've ever stayed at was the Duxton in Wellington. It's not there anymore, I don't think. But the reason I loved it, it looked out into I had to live there for a long time because of Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia. I stayed there for a long time. It was right across the street from Kitty Corner from the Wellington Museum. It had a beautiful view of the bay. I just, I had what's called a per diem, where they give you, when you're on a business trip, they give you money every day to pay for your incidentals and meals. So I had this like $100 a day per diem at the Duxton for food. And at night, I usually didn't use it for breakfast or lunch. So I had $100 at night. And I'd always order this beautiful chicken dinner and a nice bottle of wine, and they would bring it up to me, and it was great food. And I would look out at Wellington Harbor and enjoy my local New Zealand wine and locally sourced food. And it was great food. And it was just great. It was like home away from home. And I loved it. Ephraim Guzman is here. Besides Robert Redford, which legend would you like to see in the MCU? Well, I'd like to see Meryl Streep in the MCU, to be honest. We got Glenn Close. I mean, I'd like to see Meryl Streep. Ross the Boss says, "Hey, Rob, sending praise from Adelaide, Australia. Huge fan of the show. So glad I caught this live. What is your one piece of advice you would give to a 20-year-old in film school?" Here's my one piece of advice. Do as much work as you can, because work begets work. You're never going to know where the next job's going to come from. But if you create great work and really work on your craft and make things, you just never know. Don't give up. Sometimes you're going to want to give up. Sometimes I've been working on this movie Tango Shalom for 3 years. If I gave up on it, it would never get finished. But because of my perseverance, it's going to get finished. Don't give up. And Adelaide, don't you guys have good wine country down there? I like Australian wines. I drank a lot of Penfolds. Drank a lot of Penfolds when I was there. My favorite beer was Cooper's. I loved Cooper's. I love Cooper's in bottles. It was good stuff. I miss Australia. I desperately want to go back. Brian Eng says, "I wish there was a role for Cruise or Hanks in the MCU." There is. I'm sure there could be. Why not? Cruise could play Adam Warlock, maybe. Blake St. Clair says Cooper's Pale Ale. You know, when I was in New Zealand, I fell in love with Monteith's black beer. I really like that. CC83 says, have you got The Devils, Ken Russell, on Blu-ray? Is it on Blu-ray? I know they're going to release it, but I don't know if it's uncut, the British version. I desperately want to get The Devils. I used to own it on VHS. David Cabrera says, did the Endgame scene from today kill theories you might have had? I've seen some really crazy theories this week after the last trailer. It really didn't. It made me wonder where Stark was. Why wasn't he there? It didn't kill any theories I had, but I've kind of stopped theorizing about Endgame. My philosophy is that I'm seeing Endgame very, very, very shortly. I'm going to the first press screening, the first press day, which I'm not supposed to say what day that is, but it's you know, within 3 weeks, so I can't wait. Tim Terrell says, going back to 1998, did you like Star Trek Insurrection? Would you agree that the story and direction was the level of a TV episode? If you agree, why would Paramount allow for that to happen? Well, I'll tell you something. If you want to read a really interesting account of how a movie is made, Michael Piller, who wrote Star Trek Insurrection, who famously came on board TNG in the 3rd season, wrote an incredible book that was never allowed to be published officially. You can get it online, of the making of Insurrection. And I think Insurrection is absolutely like a 2-hour television episode, but I do like a lot of it. I don't think a lot of it is particularly well written, but when you read Michael Piller's book, you'll see why. Michael Piller was trying to write a much darker Joseph Conrad Hearts of Darkness tale, and he wasn't allowed to do that. So, but look up that book. I think you'll get a real big kick out of it. John Sutchries is here. John asked me if I've if I've watched the Prisoner documentary on Netflix. I didn't know there was one. Oh my God, I'm gonna go watch it right away. That's amazing. If you guys haven't listened to the Word Balloon podcast out of Chicago, you got to listen to it. If you love comics and pop culture, go listen to the Word Balloon podcast. Doshi sends me Doshi, you said you didn't have any more money for super chats, man. I hope you're not sending me the last of your money. Doshi says, I realize that different actors playing the Joker is similar to different James Bonds. Everyone has their favorite. Han had it coming. Dude, why you got to hurt me like that? Why? What's with the Han had it coming? You come to my house, you say Han had it coming? No, I'm just kidding. Mugen 008 says, with Disney adding new characters to the Alien franchise, do you think they'll let Ridley Scott finish his prequel trilogy or tap Neil Blomkamp? I don't know. I mean, look, I think anybody gives Ridley Scott the benefit of the doubt because he did create the franchise, but you never know. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It was interesting to see that they came out today and basically Disney said to all the exhibitors, yeah, we're going to make new Deadpool and new Alien movies. It was pretty definitive, so I thought that was pretty cool. Daniel Head says, is the Joker the new Hamlet? I like that. That's really interesting. Doshi said, I transferred from my other account. Doshi, I want to thank you for that. You're a great supporter of this channel, and I like you being here. And really, again, I really appreciate your support. That's very nice. Thank you. What's your favorite Grisham movie? The Firm. The Firm. I love The Firm. I love The Firm. I think it's great. I also really like The Rainmaker. Time to Kill is good too, but those are my favorites. The Rainmaker and The Firm are probably my favorites. I really do. Ross the Boss. I just love the fact that you caught this live, and I hope your film school studies stick with it. Don't get frustrated. Doshi also asks, over under the 10% in Avengers Endgame, we see time travel and Marty McFly shows up for a cameo. I'm going to take under 10 on that. Marty McFly is owned by Universal, kind of like the Incredible Hulk is. Swag Prop says, despite the general consensus, I love Star Trek V. That campfire scene is beautiful. Let me tell you something. The Inglorious Treksperts did a live show with Star Trek screenwriter, Star Trek V screenwriter David Lowery this past weekend. And it's going to be on a upcoming episode of the Inglorious Treksperts. It was really, really, really interesting. And I think there's been a reappraisal of Star Trek V, and at least there was on our panel, which you should watch. Kevin Rubio's here. He says, R.E. the Stanley Tony Stark question. Yes, he was inspired by Howard Hughes. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Chad Crypto says, I thought the same thing for years. Scotty beamed the shit out of me. I'm glad you thought that. I don't think, look, it might seem funny, but if you're on a spacefaring starship that's on a 5-year mission, you don't know when you're going to pull into port again, why wouldn't you reutilize solid matter when it can be disassembled and used? That seems like it's a good, it's not a waste. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, Rob, Star Trek had sonic shitters. Laugh out loud. I know we think it's funny because, look, Americans, scatological humor, we're the first people to embrace it. But when you think about it, it's a matter of fact. It's just life, man. And if you're on a deep space voyage, getting rid of human waste is a huge problem. You know, I mean, imagine we're going to take all the human waste and eject it out into space. Look what happened with Mark Watley in The Martian. If it wasn't for human waste, he couldn't have grown potatoes. He would never have survived on the surface of the moon. So there you go. I don't know what I was trying to say there. But Don Stellato says, hi, Rob. I collect props from horror films. I own the Saw from Saw 2. And I also own a really cool horror painting signed by Jason, Freddy, Michael, Pinhead, Leatherface, Candyman, signed Part 1. Now, that's pretty cool. Man, I watched Candyman recently. I picked up the new Arrow transfer that's also on Shout Factory. The first Candyman is a really good movie. And the new transfer is great. Swack Prop says, I used to criticize Rick Berman and Brandon Braga for their direction with Enterprise. Now, after seeing Discovery, I wish Berman and Braga were back as showrunners. Yeah, I don't disagree. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, Rob, what do you think of the 70s film The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson? Let me tell you, I saw that movie once 40 years ago. I recently purchased the Blu-ray, and I have not watched it yet. Indicator put it out, the UK label Indicator, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. But I'll have to get back to you on that because I have not watched it in a long time. Part 2 signed with each actors. Don Stellato says, Part 2. I love that. What other props do you have? Hit us back. Tell us what you got. James Bonner says, I watched Seven Samurai last week, and I'm watching Battle Royale now, and I'm loving them both. Well, I'm glad. I mean, I hope that I might have inspired you. Battle Royale, of course, Kenji Fukasaku, who directed it, is one of the great Japanese directors. He did a lot of Yakuza movies. He famously directed the Japanese sequences in Tora Tora Tora. Battle Royale, a lot of people say it's Hunger Games. It's so good. Battle Royale is so good. Andrew Hilbert is here. He says, hi, sends me a wave. Hello, sir. How are you? Halo Super Warrior Prime says, I hope Endgame isn't a time travel movie. Time travel always ruins things for me, the way Days of Future Past ruined the X-Men timeline. Yeah, it kind of did, but, you know, there were the comics. They were in the comics. They were part of that. But I really like Days of Future Past a lot. I got to say I did. It's good stuff. Matthew Godet says, when is the 4K version of coming for Seven Samurai? I don't know. It's Criterion. They remastered it. I'd love to see Criterion start doing 4K stuff. They haven't yet. GW427 says, Candyman is quite a tragic character. Love the first film. Can't wait for the new one by Jordan Peele. Yeah, he is a tragic character. He had a terrible, terrible story, but that's why he's pissed off. Captain Robert April says, reclamation of fecal matter for later reuse. Sure, no problem. They even acknowledge that exact fact in Enterprise, beaming it directly from the colon. I don't think so. Why not? Just figure out what the actual makeup of it is and beam it right out. Barbecue Network says, I think a black man will be investigating the story in Candyman, and it won't be a white woman like Virginia Madsen. That's just my prediction. I don't know. I mean, you never know. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think two women, Casey Lemons, is it Cassie Lemons, and Virginia Madsen. I think that there's something really interesting about that. You know, maybe it'll be changed. I don't know. Barbecue Network says it's a very brutal horror movie. Is that, you mean Candyman? Candyman's really brutal, and there's that extra added scene in the uncut version that I hadn't seen. Real Girl 26 says, I'm interested to see what they do with the new different take on Candyman. Me too. Bill Hunt says, Criterion is going to be adding 4K to the Criterion collection eventually. You heard it here first. If Bill Hunt says Criterion is adding 4K to the Criterion collection, you can take that, put it in your pipe, and smoke it, and know that it will get you where you want to go, because he's connected. He knows. Just Plain Steve is here. He says, think we'll see that Big Trouble in Little China sequel anytime soon. The original was one of my favorite 80s films and had Kurt Russell at his best. I hope so. I mean, I know it's not a reboot. It's a sequel. I dearly love Jack Burton and the Pork Chop Express. I love Big Trouble in China. It's such a great movie. You know, it's interesting to go back. The summer of 1986, Fox was touting they had 3 big genre releases coming out in the summer. They had Aliens, they had Cronenberg's The Fly remake, and they had Big Trouble in Little China. And they were promoting them as 3 different films. You know, they're three big genre movies, so it was all cross promoting. And Big Trouble just tanked. Nobody understood what they were going for, and of course, it's now beloved, and like all of Carpenter's films. But at the time, people just didn't get it. We love it now, of course. Kind of like we love Buckaroo Banzai. As a matter of fact, Buckaroo Banzai and Big Trouble in Little China make a great double bill. Pleasant Valley Picker, California says, Rob, did you ever see the 1960s Gold Key Comics Magnus Robot Fighter with art by Russ Manning? Come on. Of course. Magnus Robot Fighter ruled. I loved Magnus Robot Fighter. And Solar Man of the Atom was also a Gold Key comic too. And wasn't Magnus Robot Fighter picked up by Valiant? Didn't they pick that up as well? I might be wrong, but I think they did. Word Balloon, John says, do you want to see other canon captains in Disco, or are you afraid of how they'll change them? Speaking of Robert April, I'm scared of anybody they put on Star Trek Discovery. I don't care who they are. You know what? They would do another episode where they go back to Excalibur, and the Excalbians give us Abraham Lincoln, and the Abraham Lincoln would bear no resemblance to the Abraham Lincoln we know. He'd have dyslexia. His father would be strange. I mean, it wouldn't be good. They would probably make him a Democrat. You know, you never know. It just wouldn't work out. I don't like it when they ever bring it should never. Discovery has just strip mined original Star Trek because the producers of that show don't have any original thoughts in their head. Kevin Rubio says, Rob, as your namesake and Free Enterprise is fond of pointing out, sci-fi didn't start in 1977. So can you recommend some good sci-fi films pre-1977 to our new younger viewers? That is a great question. Okay, first of all, let me give you the 4 George Powell movies you got to see. Destination Moon, Conquest of Space, War of the Worlds, and When Worlds Collide. Start with those. Got to watch those. You have to watch Forbidden Planet. You have to watch Day the Earth Stood Still. You have to watch Quatermass 2 from 1955. I think Brian Donlevy's Dr. Quatermass. Them, if you want to watch a great giant ant movie, and there aren't many, you have to watch Them. It's really, really good. You should watch Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927. And if you don't want to watch a black and white silent movie, you can get Giorgio Moroder's 80s reboot of Metropolis with John Anderson of Yes. Giorgio Moroder did the soundtrack. It's great. Pick that up. Everyone should see Metropolis. You need to see Zardoz, just because. You need to see A Boy and His Dog. Watch the original Rollerball from 1975 that Norman Jewison directed. Obviously, all 5 original Planet of the Apes movies. There's a movie called The Final Program, or The Last Days of Man on Earth, about Jerry Cornelius, based on a Michael Moorcock book. You got to get that. And if you're really adventurous, I cannot recommend this movie highly enough. If you go to YouTube, you got to watch the trailer. Watch the trailer for Wild, Wild Planet. It is a French-Italian co-production from, I think, 1965. You can get the DVD from Warner Archive. Let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've seen Wild, Wild Planet. I kid you not. Look it up. you'll realize, you'll see it and go, man, I need to see that right now. Tarkovsky's Solaris, which is kind of, they say, the Russian 2001. Heck, 2001. Go see that. Let's see. As I look around for questions for what people have to say, I keep seeing the same questions. I'll go back up. Matlin Picky says, I got all of my new comics in John Schnepp's honor. I always think of John Schnepp every time I go into a comic book store. Matt, he would love it if you said that. John Schnepp's comic book stores were John Schnepp's happy place, and he would certainly love to hear you say that. So yes, that is a fantastic thing. Oh, Mike Bawden says Silent Running is an awesome movie. It's true. Silent Running, of course, that was, you know who wrote Silent Running, by the way? Check this out. Stephen Bochco of TV fame. That's Stephen Bochco. And Michael Cimino were two of the writers on Silent Running. Michael Cimino famously went on to direct Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. He directed The Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, Year of the Dragon. I love Silent Running. Don't let the Joan Baez song in the front put you off. It's okay. I mean, if you don't know who Joan Baez is, Silent Running is not going to make you want to go out and buy any of her albums. But it doesn't matter. You should watch it. It was directed by the great Douglas Trumbull. Douglas Trumbull went on to direct Brainstorm as well. He did the visual effects, of course, in Blade Runner and in Star Trek The Motion Picture. He worked on 2001. But Silent Running is great. It's also got three of the greatest robots of all time, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They play poker, and they take care of plants. What's not to love about robots like that? And there were not quadriplegics. There were paraplegics. There were actually wounded veterans inside those robots making them go. Bill Hunt says Dark Star. Dark Star is a favorite movie of mine. Again, 1975. It was famously John Carpenter's first feature. He made it as a student film at USC. Then they gave him, I think it was, I want to say Fred Harris, but I don't think it's Fred Harris. Jack Harris, maybe, gave him money to expand it into a feature. Dark Star is awesome. I love Dark Star. VCI put out, they put it out on VHS. You can get the Blu-ray of it. It's really good. There's actually a really good documentary on that Blu-ray as well. So you should get that. Mike Bond says, just wait till he gets to the part about Nazis bombing Pearl Harbor. The Nazis bombed Pearl Harbor? Go with it. He's rolling. That's Animal House, though. Let's see. Did I say something wrong? The Nazis bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no. By the way, Animal House, 1978. You got to watch that. It's fantastic. Anyone see the documentary about the original Vader actor and how he was left out of all Star Wars things? It's called I Am Your Father. That would be David Prowse. David Prowse, who famously played Darth Vader and didn't know his voice was going to be dubbed. David Prowse is actually in my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, A Clockwork Orange. He plays sort of the bodyguard of this writer that was attacked by Alex and his droogs. David Prowse is in a lot of stuff, by the way. Create Video says, will Star Wars 9 be better than The Last Jedi? I don't know. I can't tell you. I can tell you in December of this year, but I don't know. Rob Crawford, do you have any directing projects coming? What DC character would you like to direct? I don't have anything. I've got about 4 projects I would love to direct. A couple of them are almost lifelong passion projects. What DC character would I like to direct? That's tough. There's so many DC characters. You know, I like Green Lantern. I wouldn't mind doing a Green Lantern character. You know, Mike Bawden, my buddy Mike Bawden, business partner, friend, he loves Walt Simons's Manhunter. Manhunter would be a great movie. I don't know if they'd ever make Manhunter, by the way, has one of my favorite, not the Millennium Manhunters when they bastardize the whole idea of the Manhunters. But the original Simonson Manhunter costume is one of the coolest costumes in all of comic bookdom. The red and white costume with the cowl, it's really good. It's good stuff. Isn't Dan O'Bannon associated with Dark Star? Yes, he is. Dan O'Bannon is actually in Dark Star. He plays the character of Pinback, and he is hilarious. Pre-life teaser says, I heard David Lynch was offered Return of the Jedi. Yes, he was. He turned it down. Matt Fitzpatrick says, Neil deGrasse Tyson addressed the Thanos Ant-Man butt theory. He did? I haven't read that. I'm going to have to go see that. Aaron Johnson asks, Rob, what are your thoughts on the movie Spies Like Us? I love the comedic timing between Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase. The film makes me laugh every time. I believe that's another film directed by the great John Landis, who directed Animal House and Blues Brothers. I think he directed Spies Like Us. I like it. You know, I don't think it's up to par with Animal House, but I like Spies Like Us. I thought it was good. Real Girl 26 says, did anybody see the Bumblebee VHS April Fool's commercial? It's funny. I did not see that. Doshi says, hey, Rob, I think there's a ghost behind you. There is. His name is Mike. He's very scary. Rob Crawford, he already asked that. I don't have any directing projects coming. I wish I did. Just Plain Steve said, at least I have fond memories of Barbarella. It has been a while since I've seen it. Barbarella, again, a comic book adaptation produced by the great Dino De Laurentiis, directed by Roger Vadim, who at the time was married to star Jane Fonda. The great thing about Barbarella is it gave us the name Duran Duran. Duran Duran took their name from Dr. Duran from Barbarella, played by Miles O'Shea, right? Milo O'Shea, not Miles, Milo O'Shea, not Miles O'Brien. And then, of course, you had John Philip Law, who played Diabolik in Mario Bava's Diabolik, also produced by De Laurentiis, played Pygar the alien in Barbarella. That is some good stuff. If you watch it again, it's a little... Oh, it was amputees, Captain Robert April says, that were in Huey, Dewey, and Louie in Silent Running. I don't know if Barbarella really holds up. It's a little crazy, but it does make a good double bill with Diabolik. So, yeah. Pre-Life Teaser says, Walt's rendering of Apocalypse was amazing. Totally, I agree with you. I'm a big fan. I love Walt Simonson, and I love when he worked with Al Williamson. It was all good. Richard Lee says, which Endgame post-credit scene do you think will get in Endgame? Will get in Endgame? One with Galactus or one with the Illuminati Avengers? Dude, I have no idea. I really don't. I can't even speculate. I want to see Galactus and Silver Surfer. I don't think I'm going to, but I want to. I mean, I want the last. Here's what I want. I want the last. I don't know how many credit sequences are in Avengers Endgame, but I want to see, like, you're in deep space, and from the distance, you just see this silver flash go, whoosh, it whizzes by the camera, and then a giant spaceship looms into the frame. It's bigger, runs right in the camera. Then you're inside this Jack Kirby-esque, super gigantic spaceship, and it comes in the center. You see Galactus. He spies Earth and says, I hunger. Boom, done. That's what I want to see. Because I think that would be great. Dale M says, you look tired, Rob. I am exhausted. I am exhausted. I've been going full on. I am so tired. I'm sorry I look so tired, but what can I do? But I'm still talking to you guys because I've got to do it. Matt Limpicki says, I even own the John Schnepp comic books. Oh, John Schnepp wrote a comic book about the band Slayer called Repentless. It was bloody awesome, and it reminds me of Sons of Anarchy, but way more gore with the blood. It was so bloody. It was such a violent comic. It was hilarious. I really liked it a lot. I thought it was great. So, yeah. Murray Reich is here. So will Han be the first to undust or Shaw? Come on, man. Han, they just got to bring back Han. Han didn't die. You find out he didn't die. He can come back with great burn scars or something. Wouldn't that be great? I would love that. Happy birthday, Robert Downey Jr., 54 years old today. Wow, that's crazy that he's 54 years old. Wow. Amazing. Yes. Dale M says, don't be sorry, buddy. Just hope you can get some good rest. I'm going to get some good rest. I really am. Because I am tired. Still Bells says, nostalgia overload and stories be good. I agree with that. Mike Bodden says, I don't have any Star Slammers either. I stopped my comic collecting when I went off to college in the 1980s. Now I just write stuff. No Star? No, really? I bet you're bummed out about that. Let's see. Pre-live teaser says, Irwin Allen did great 1960s sci-fi TV. Yes. Time Tunnel, Land of the Giants. I love those shows. I thought those were great. I like the Irwin Allen shows. They were good. Didn't he do Lost in Space? Lost in Space was Irwin Allen. So, yeah, so he did. Wait a minute. Lost in Space was not a good. I'm sorry. There was a talking carrot on an episode of Lost in Space. Not a fan. The first season was pretty good. Jesse Talmanes says, how many more events do you have to attend? Well, there's the Paramount presentation, but that's about it. We're just doing the presentations. You know, most of this convention is all about exhibition. There's a lot of theater technology here, both the sound and picture that are interesting, but not really what we are covering. But it was good. But it's been good. Anyway, guys, I am tired and I am exhausted, and it's 10:30, and this has been a great chat, and I appreciate all the support and everybody here. Keep sending me letters at theburnettwork.net. I love hearing from you. I love reading them aloud. And remember, please go, Alan Murphy, the CEO of Lucky Tiger, email him, tell him you want him to come on this show for the 100th episode. You can find him at getluckytiger.com. Well, you can't find him there. That's our online store. But if they have a contact us, just write in and say, Rob Burnett from Robservations, who you are sponsoring, really wants you to come on his 100th show on Robservations. So write him. We're gonna make him come. I'm gonna force his hand. And also go to clubluckytiger.com. Check out the content there. I will be creating content there soon. Very excited about it. And if you go to getluckytiger.com, I recommend the facial scrub. It's really, really good. I quite enjoy it. So I'm going to go to sleep. Thank you all for being here. What a great chat, everyone. As always, remember, all of you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community, remember that every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I am out of here. Coming to you live from Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. Vegas, baby, Vegas. I'm going to be 500 up by midnight. Anyway, I will see you all later. I'll be back here tomorrow. I don't know what time yet. I'm going to try and get back on a more regular schedule. Anyway, thanks for being here, and thanks for continuing to support the channel. Please go to my website, check out my Patreon, follow me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, and also follow this, subscribe to this channel, The Burnettwork, tell your friends, and everybody is welcome. And with that, I bid you all good evening.